Alright, so I want to make this video about, like, back in 2014, I heard all these spiritual people on the internet, like, talking about how it's about killing the ego, okay? And as I've gotten farther along in my spiritual journey, I've realized that it's not about killing the ego. It's about gaining control of the ego, gaining control of the dark side of yourself. Because we are the yin and the yang. We are the light and the dark, right? And people get it confused because you'll go on the spiritual journey and it's like they want to be all light with no darkness. They want to be all good and claim that there's no bad inside of them. They want to claim that they killed their ego. But something I've realized, it's like I don't think you can kill the ego until your body dies. Because it's like, now this is just my explanation, but it's like I think the ego is the mind of the body, the monkey mind, and the consciousness or the light is the soul inside. Like, we are not the body, we're a soul that's inside of a body. But the machine itself, the body, has its own thing, right? Because the thing that makes us different than other monkeys is the fact that we have this thing. Like monkeys just do monkey things. We have the ability to think and make technology and do all this extra shit, and because we have something that they don't, but they still have a mind, right? It's like the ego is a mind of some sort, and it's like the ego is a good, passenger, but it's a horrible driver. The ego is a good follower, but it's a horrible leader. This is what I mean, where I'm like, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's that we need to kill it, because I truthfully don't think that's possible. But what I do think is possible is gaining control of it, taming the ego, right? Because it's like the problems we have in the society today stem from the fact that it's like the human race as a whole is like 70 to 80% ego. But like, if we can get to a point where the human race, like sometime in the future, could be hundreds of years, could be 1,000 years, but like sometime in the future, where like we're 70 to 80% consciousness and 30 to 20% ego, right? Like as a whole, like the collective consciousness. Because it's like we have individual consciousnesses, but we have a collective conscious, and the collective conscious affects the collective, like the whole thing, but your individual consciousness affects you. So, like, I don't know. It's like, how much are you feeding your ego? Because people mistake feeding their ego as self-love. They think feeding their ego, making sure their ego gets everything it wants, right? You have comfort and pleasure and, all these different things, all the worldly things, physical things, all this shit, right? Just to please the ego while your soul is starving. Like, metaphorically speaking, I think that's why people, like, there's so many mental health issues in the world today, right? It's like people's souls are starving, when the truth be told is we should be starving our ego, not killing our ego. We starve it to the point where it's like not strong enough to take over, because once again, the ego is a horrible leader, but it's a good follower. So you must make sure your soul or your consciousness or your light is full, and make sure your ego, give it enough food so it can do its job, right? So it can defend you, so it can do this thing, because the ego is there for a reason. I don't think it's bad. Like, because people have said to me all the time, they're like, oh, you're a spiritual person, or you're claiming to be, and you still have an ego, you're not spiritual. And I'm like, you don't get it. I don't think it's about killing the ego. I think it's about having control of it and not letting it control you. Like, I don't think it's about letting go of society. I think it's about gaining self-control. Like, so many people think they have to leave society completely to leave society. Like, I'm in society, but I'm not necessarily a part of society, right? Like, I'm in the human body, but I know I am not the human body. I have thoughts, but I know I am not my thoughts, right? Like, I have an ego, but I know that I'm not my ego. It's that thing. That, like, when you realize that you're technically the light, but right now you have light and dark, who knows if you'll always have light and dark, but, like, because I think it's like, if you're a light, you create a shadow, right? So it's like a flame, a light, creates a shadow. So as long as there's light, there might always be shadow. That just might be the duality. But, like, I was thinking about this trip that my ex-girlfriend had, right? And it was a mushroom trip. And she was talking about how the mushroom, like, we had a blindfold on and we was just, like, in it. And she was saying that the mushroom pulled her ego off of her. So it's like, and then she said she was able to see it, right? That it was like this slimy, dark thing that's like, I need you type shit, right? And that, her telling me that stuck with me forever, because I understand it. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, the ego is like a parasite that needs us, but we don't need the ego, but we can use the ego while we have it. The soul doesn't need the body. It's just in the body to have this experience. The ego is part of that experience. And we think, this is why I don't think the ego is bad. I don't think it's about getting rid of it. I don't think it's about killing it. I think it's about taming it like a dog. Or like humans did with wolves to then create dogs. Like, we've done this with animals, so we need to do it with our animal body. Everyone has a pet monkey. Everyone. And that monkey is your monkey body. Homo sapien is a type of ape, right? Like, and that's the body we're in. But, like, because of that, it has its own thing, and I think the ego is just part of it. And the problem is lack of balance. I think, like, all the spiritual knowledge is already available. Everything's already been said. The difference, like, the only thing is others just need to go through their own experience. Because it's one thing to say, you are not your thoughts, you are the observer of your thoughts. It's another thing to experience that for yourself, to actually meditate for multiple years and finally achieve that moment of, like, realization that you are not your thoughts, right? It's one thing to hear about the psychedelic world. It's another thing to take 5 to 10 grams of dried mushrooms with a blindfold on, or smoke 50 to 80 milligrams of N,N-dimethyltryptamine, like, with a blindfold on. Like, there's a difference between me telling you my experiences and you actually experiencing it. So it's like, we're in this body to have experience, right? This thing is an experience. And I don't think it's about killing part of yourself. I think it's about realizing and making amends with the darkness inside of you, right? If you can make the light in you friends with the darkness in you, you will fucking thrive more than you ever have before. Like, that's you becoming the best version of yourself, right? Like, how could you be the best version of yourself if you're only admitting half of yourself? If you're claiming you killed your ego, how? What do you mean? Because I bet if you, like, when you are wrong, do you accept when you're wrong, or do you fight it? Because the thing fighting it is your ego, right? Do you, like, I don't know. There's so much things, like, are you integrating the things you've learned? Are you, like, all these different things? You'll make up excuses of why you don't work out, or why you can't do this or can't do that, or all these whatever. But who do you think's making the excuses? Your ego, right? Ego is not just the thing that says, oh, I'm the shit and I'm better than everyone else. No, ego is also the thing that says, I'm a piece of shit and I'm worse than everyone else, right? Like, ego is the thing holding you back, but it's also the thing that can help you go forward. It's a tool. It reminds me of social media. Everyone says social media is bad and it's fucking up the kids and it's this and that, but no, it's not. It is just a tool. That's it. If you were less ego and more consciousness, you'd be able to use the tool correctly. It's all on you. If you're more ego, like if your ego is driving your vehicle, then yeah, you're going to have issues. But if your consciousness is driving your vehicle, a lot of the issues you have could be solved, right? Because it's not social media, it's not the thing, it's the person using the tool. And who's using the tool? The observer or the machine? Is the machine on autopilot? Because that's like what the ego is. It's like autopilot. When you're not making conscious decisions, living consciously, living through your consciousness. Like, becoming conscious means you're living through your consciousness, making decisions with your consciousness, right? Like, I heard Teal Swan say something about how, like, free will is like a muscle, and, like, just like you have to work out to build muscles, you have to use your free will to get better at using your free will. Get better at, like, the more you use your consciousness, the more you work out your consciousness, the stronger it will be, right? And the more likely, but it's the same thing with your ego. The more you work out your ego, the stronger it'll be. And, like, if you have a strong ego, but a weak consciousness, a weak soul, then that's what's causing issues. If you have a strong soul and a weak ego, that's also going to cause issues. Those are the people that said that they killed their ego and now they can't even defend their family, right? Like, they're like, oh, I don't want to be violent at all, or I don't, whatever. And it's like they completely forget how to defend the people they love. Like, but the truth, it's all about balance. So it's like having a strong soul and a strong ego, but always making sure the soul is at least a little bit stronger than the ego. Like, because then it's like you could still defend your family. Like, if someone was hurting my family, like, I still have the ability to defend my family. I'm not just hippied the fuck out, like, oh, no violence, man. Like I understand myself, so it's like I have balance with myself. So, like, I'm still able to put my foot down. I'm still able to speak my mind. I'm still able to speak up when I need to speak up, right? Because that's still all part of the ego, but that's using the ego as a tool to maneuver through the world. Because the world is hard, and the ego tries to defend you from the hard shit in the world, but at the same time, if you don't have it under control, it's defending you from shit you don't need to be defended from. Like, you know how many times people will tell you the truth, but you just don't want to hear it? Like, that's your ego that gets in the way of you hearing it. So, like, gaining control of the ego is important, so then you can learn new information, so you can grow, so you can evolve, so you can get better, so you can get wiser. Like, I don't know. Yeah, but I guess that's it. This is the second time I made this video, because I made this video yesterday, but the microphone, I unplugged the microphone, so then, like, it was half unplugged, so I couldn't hear anything. But I appreciate y'all for watching.